Benjamin deeply valued strong, honest relationships, believing that true love was founded on trust. He would never invade someone's privacy or build a relationship on insecurity. When he met Jessica, he felt he'd found a kindred spirit. She was confident, intelligent, and had clear ambitions, approaching life with an allure that drew people in. Their connection deepened quickly, built on companionship and mutual respect. They shared daily tasks and celebrated small victories together, creating a harmonious routine. For a long time, Benjamin had no doubts, until a Saturday afternoon barbecue at a friend's house. He had arrived early to help with preparations, setting up tables, lighting the grill, and laughing with friends as they seasoned meat on the porch. Jessica, still at work, had said she would join them later. Benjamin was relaxed, anticipating a peaceful day with friends, awaiting his wife. Jessica arrived later, accompanied by Trevor and several other colleagues. Benjamin was preparing drinks when she approached him with her usual radiant smile, introducing Trevor casually. "Honey, this is Trevor, the one who always assists me with projects at the office." Benjamin extended his hand politely, but was immediately struck by a profound discomfort. Trevor exuded an excessive confidence, as if he knew his presence would have an impact. His tone, the way he gazed at Jessica, and the private jokes they shared openly all stirred a growing unease in Benjamin. Throughout the afternoon, Benjamin tried to appear normal, but found himself intently observing. Trevor consistently positioned himself close to Jessica, narrated stories where she was the central figure, recalled insignificant conversational details, and spoke with an unsettling familiarity. Jessica either genuinely didn't notice or chose to feign ignorance, laughing along. When Trevor excused himself to the kitchen, Benjamin followed, driven by an urge to meet his gaze and understand the source of his intense discomfort. Trevor turned, a nearly sarcastic smile playing on his lips, and asked, "Do you work in events too? Jessica talks about you a lot at the office." Benjamin replied coldly, "No," holding Trevor's gaze, then walked away, unwilling to prolong the conversation. Internally, something had irrevocably shifted. From that day forward, Benjamin began noticing subtle shifts in Jessica's behavior, not because he sought problems, but because Trevor's name consistently appeared at the heart of these changes. During casual dinners, she would praise Trevor's productivity and creativity, recounting how he had saved a project at the last minute. Their first argument arose when Benjamin directly questioned, "Are you sure he's just a coworker?" Jessica dismissed it with a laugh, as if it were the most absurd notion, but her laughter left a bitter taste, for a clear answer often yields to a deceptive laugh. Despite his growing discomfort, Benjamin strove to maintain normalcy, tending to his work and home and making plans with her. Yet he could no longer see Jessica through the same lens. Every hushed phone laugh, every work-related message, every prolonged team meeting began to erode him. Their once light-hearted relationship transformed into a grueling exercise in self-control. He refrained from excessive questioning, unwilling to appear insecure, but internally he was quietly fracturing. The breaking point arrived during breakfast, when Jessica casually mentioned a company team-building trip to a nearby lake, scheduled for the entire weekend with numerous colleagues, and she had already confirmed her attendance. Benjamin, his gaze unwavering, inquired about the other attendees. Jessica listed a few names before casually adding, "Oh, Trevor's going too." That was enough. He inhaled deeply and, without a trace of irony or accusation, simply stated, "If you go, then don't come back." Jessica stared at him in stunned silence for a few seconds, then attempted to joke, asking if he was being dramatic. Benjamin remained motionless. It was as if every piece of the puzzle had suddenly fallen into place. Proof no longer mattered, nor did her admission or denial. The trust that once felt as solid as stone had crumbled to dust, and in such ruin, no argument could mend what was already shattered. Jessica tried to compose herself, asserting her loyalty, claiming she had never given him reason to doubt. "I've always been here, Benjamin, present, honest, open. I've never hidden anything from you, never acted behind your back. So why are you looking at me now like I'm a stranger?" she asked, her voice trembling with hurt and frustration. He looked at her again, reiterating, "If you go, then don't come back." Jessica averted her gaze, mumbled, "The choice is yours," and walked away from the table. Benjamin remained seated, staring at his untouched plate, his chest filling with a profound emptiness. That morning, Benjamin grasped a profound truth. Sometimes a single unfamiliar presence is enough to expose everything. Jessica departed. She packed a small suitcase with light clothes and sandals, grabbed her sunscreen, applied perfume, fixed her hair in the living room mirror, and left the house as if it were just another weekend getaway. No hesitation, no backward glance, as if Benjamin's words days earlier were merely a jealous outburst, something that would pass, and he would simply be waiting for her, as always, to return and resume their pretense of normalcy. But this time, something fundamental had changed. He offered no explanations, made no attempt to sway her. He simply watched. Each step she took towards the door felt like a final punctuation mark in his own narrative. As soon as she passed through the gate, Benjamin sank onto the couch, crossed his arms, and took a deep, fortifying breath. He remained there for hours, the television off, no music, no distractions, just his thoughts filling every void. It wasn't anger he felt, but a strange, liberating clarity. For the first time, he wasn't consumed with wondering what she was doing, with whom, or where. His focus was solely on himself, how he had allowed things to escalate, how many times he had remained silent to preserve something that no longer existed. That same afternoon, he rose and went directly to the bedroom. He systematically gathered her suitcases, boxes of old papers, photographs from their seemingly happy past, her work clothes, favorite shoes, books stacked by the bed, and jewelry forgotten in drawers. Each item she had left behind was carefully packed, as if sealing a completed chapter. There was no haste, no hesitation. He knew precisely what he was doing. He called her parents, informing them he would be sending everything the next day, and requested they be home to receive it. Then he locked the door, changed the electronic lock code, canceled her access to shared accounts, updated the alarm code, deleted their photos from his phone, and reset passwords for emails and social media accounts they had once shared for convenience. With each adjustment, he felt a piece of himself being reclaimed, and despite the pain, a growing lightness settled within him. He slept without regret, truly resting for the first time in months, free from the crushing weight of doubt and the need to feign composure. 3 days later, around noon, the doorbell rang. He knew it was her. Benjamin remained still, listening to her persistent knocking for nearly 10 minutes. She tried calling, sent messages, left voicemails, all ignored. Outside, she eventually spotted the delivery notice taped to the mailbox. Delivery completed, items delivered as requested, signed by her parents. She understood then that he had executed his plan in advance, that his ultimatum was not a bluff. She peered through a window slit, but the house seemed utterly silent. Even the neighbor's dog had stopped barking, as if respecting the gravitas of his decision. Jessica sank onto the front steps, waiting for almost an hour. She sent more messages, her tone now subdued. "Benjamin, let's talk. You're overreacting. I just went on a work trip." But by then, nothing mattered. Her excuses were too late and rang hollow. He remained silent. The door to the house was locked, but what was truly inaccessible was his heart. After a while, she left. She walked away without dignity, without answers, burdened by the bitter realization that, this time, she had lost control of her own narrative. Benjamin rose from the couch, walked to the door, and looked through the peephole, watching the gate close. He leaned his forehead against the cold wood for a few seconds. The silence in the house perfectly mirrored his feelings, an ending, an emptiness, a release. He went to the kitchen, drank a glass of water, and returned to the bedroom. Opening the closet, he saw the empty spaces. For the first time, they didn't bother him. It was as if this absence was necessary, as if every empty inch was now free territory. The pain was undeniably present, but it was a clean pain, a pain that no longer surpassed what he had endured for months. Days before facing his mother-in-law, still on the morning Jessica left for the company trip, Benjamin waited for her to close the gate, watched her car disappear down the street, then picked up his phone, opened the browser, and typed "private investigator," plus the name of the city where the lodge was located. From the results, he chose a well-reviewed agency with an office just a few miles from where the group would spend the weekend. He called immediately. The voice on the other end was calm, professional. Benjamin explained the basics. His wife was going on what was supposed to be a team-building trip, and he suspected a specific colleague. He provided the lodge's name, street, neighborhood, the car she'd arrive in, sent photos of Jessica and Trevor, described her backpack, approximate times, and requested complete discretion. The investigator thanked him for the information and said he'd start that same afternoon. Benjamin hung up and moved through the house as if everything were normal. On Sunday night, before Jessica even parked her car in front of the house, he had already received the report. 3 photos sent by email showed exactly what he feared, confirming that his gut feeling was more accurate than he had wanted to believe. Later, his in-laws called. Jessica's mother, speaking softly, asked if he was okay, if he wanted to talk, if reconsideration wasn't possible. Benjamin thanked her for her concern, explaining there had been no fight, no anger, just a boundary crossed that could no longer be ignored. The woman tried to argue, but he gently interrupted. "I've always respected your daughter, but now I need to respect myself too." He then hung up. In the days that followed, Jessica kept trying to reach him. She called at random times, showed up at his workplace, left messages with mutual friends. With each attempt, he stayed firm. He refused to perpetuate the cycle. The decision wasn't impulsive. She'd had her chance to listen, understand, and reconsider, yet she had chosen a different path. Benjamin had chosen his, with fewer words, less confusion, and no more excuses. He was weary of waiting for honesty. Hours later, driven by an almost maternal impulse, the mother-in-law decided she needed to look Benjamin in the eye. She grabbed her bag and drove to his house. She rang the doorbell firmly and waited. Benjamin, seeing who it was, hesitated for a second but opened the gate. He didn't seem surprised. He let her in, gestured toward the sofa, and stayed standing, watching. She sat with the posture of someone who'd rehearsed every word. "Benjamin, I've always respected you. Always. Since the day I met you, I never imagined you'd do something so extreme. You love my daughter. You always have. And now, out of nowhere, you throw it all away like this. You send her away like trash. I understand you might have been upset about the work trip, but that's normal. People do that. But this was too much. At the very least, you should have listened to what she had to say." Benjamin listened in silence. He crossed his arms, his expression calm. When she finished, he didn't counter any of the accusations. He simply turned, walked to a drawer in the living room cabinet, and pulled out a brown envelope. He handed it to her with the same calmness he'd offer a glass of water. She looked at the envelope, confused. "What is this?" He simply replied, "The truth." With trembling hands, the mother-in-law opened the envelope and pulled out 3 photos printed on matte paper. In the first, Jessica and Trevor walked side by side, holding hands on a grassy area away from the main lodge. In the second, they sat on a wooden bench, talking very close. In the third, under the shade of a distant tree, they were kissing. It wasn't a quick peck, not a friendly gesture that could be mistaken. It was intimate, clear, definitive. She stared at the images for a long time. She didn't speak. Her eyes started to water, but not from anger, from disappointment. Finally, she carefully closed the envelope, as if sealing a secret she never wanted to reveal, and looked at Benjamin with a mix of shame and respect. "You'll always be welcome in our home. I'm sorry I came here without knowing the truth." He didn't say anything, just gave a slight nod. She understood. "Can I keep the photos?" Benjamin nodded, looking her straight in the eye. Without another word, she stood up, held the envelope against her chest, and left in silence. And he, standing in the living room, remained firm. He no longer needed to prove anything to anyone. It was early evening when Jessica arrived home from work. She was tired, her head full, her steps dragging. She expected silence, maybe a warm meal on the stove, and her mother's understanding gaze. But when she opened the door, she found something different. Her father sat on the couch, hands clasped, staring at the floor. Her mother beside him, tense, eyes fixed on her from the moment she walked in. The air was heavy, almost suffocating. Before she could ask anything, her mother spoke with a firmness she hadn't shown in years. "Please, daughter, sit down. We need to talk." Jessica sat slowly, her heart racing. She shivered when she saw the envelope on the coffee table. Her mother picked it up gently, as if revealing something she herself still couldn't process. Without saying a word, she pulled out the photos, the same ones Benjamin had handed over. In silence, she placed them in front of her daughter. Jessica stared at the first, her and Trevor, holding hands. The second, the two of them sitting very close. The third, the kiss, the moment frozen on paper. The silence was broken by her father's deep voice. "Is this what you were hiding from us? Is this what you did to the man who gave you everything?" Jessica began to tremble. She tried to stammer something, but her throat was dry. "I made a mistake. I slipped. It was just a moment. Only a moment. The words came out disjointed. She tried to justify the unjustifiable. Her mother stood up, breathing deeply, eyes wet, not from sadness, but from shame. "You lied to me, Jessica. I went to his house. I argued with him. I defended you like a mother protecting her child with everything she had. I left there feeling humiliated, like I'd taken a moral beating. He didn't yell, didn't raise his voice. He just showed me this. And now I understand everything. My God, what have you done?" Jessica collapsed into tears. She tried to explain, said she'd been carried away by impulse, that she thought Benjamin didn't look at her the same way anymore. She said Trevor was just an escape, that it all happened fast and without intention. But no sentence seemed strong enough to erase what the photos showed. Her father stood up without looking at her and walked to the bedroom, too disappointed to stay in that room. Her mother, still standing, crossed her arms and said, not with anger, but with a trembling voice, "You threw away the respect he had for you, and ours too. Now you'll have to learn to live with the silence of those who loved you and expected more from you." Then she left,
leaving Jessica alone with the photos on the table, staring at the printed fragments of the mistake that would change her life forever.
The divorce was finalized in silence, without fights, without scandals, just the quiet acknowledgement that they had been apart for a long time. Jessica tried to start a relationship with Trevor, the colleague who unknowingly had triggered Benjamin's suspicions. But Trevor made it clear from the start he didn't want anything serious, just moments. That hurt more than she imagined. Emotionally drained and with no motivation to continue that routine, Jessica quit her job. With her share from the settlement, she thanked her parents for their support and decided to start over. She chose a smaller, quieter town where no one knew her. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she was finally starting life the right way, with fewer illusions and more truth. Benjamin, on the other hand, moved forward at his own pace, without rush, without guilt. Gradually, Jessica became just a distant memory. He started smiling more easily, enjoying small moments, an afternoon with friends, a quiet lunch with a good book, a walk with no set time to return. The lightness that once seemed impossible was now part of his days, and as unlikely as it seemed, he discovered that life could in fact go on, and even surprise him. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.